Wow, that last video about HDMI got quite a response. Some people glad it was pointed out, but some very angry people who didn't quite get what was being said or see the pinned comment. Just to clarify though, it's not the cable, it's the HDMI settings, as Dr. 𝗚𝗏 mentioned, which could be set to limited range, which it appears is the default instead of full range, which quite a few folks in the comments actually noticed. Some systems allow you to change those settings by going into the graphics card, and quite a few people have, judging by the comments following the video, and that's great. But if you don't know how to, you're not able to, or you have a Mac, then don't use it. But it's not the law. And relax. Right, getting back to this week's video. Lightroom CC. What is the point of it? Okay, so back in February 2007, Adobe released what has since become known as Lightroom Classic, their software solution for photographers for importing, organizing, editing, printing, creating slideshows, web galleries, maps, and even a module to create photo books. Over time, as you'd expect, this software has gotten better and better, with some pretty hefty updates in masking, AI, and more recently, noise reduction. As someone who started out and mainly used Photoshop to edit their images, I've started to use Lightroom more and more over recent years. But even more recently, I'm finding that there are updates in Lightroom, which means I don't have to send files to Photoshop and back again quite so often. I also use Lightroom Mobile a lot. I'm having so much fun doing more and more photography with my iPhone and using Lightroom Mobile for taking photographs and for editing, which works especially good on the bigger screen on my iPad. But then there's Lightroom, or Lightroom CC, or is it Lightroom Cloud? Where does this fit in, and why, even though it's part of the Lightroom family, are so many of the keyboard shortcuts so different? The crop tool, for example. In good old Lightroom Classic, for years we've pressed R for the crop and rotate tool. But in Lightroom CC Cloud thingy, we press C, which I guess still makes sense because it's C for crop. But C in Lightroom Classic activates compare mode. In Lightroom Classic, we've always pressed the letter P to choose an image as a pick. But if we press P in Lightroom CC, that shows or hides the left-hand side where we see the photograph albums listed. So quite a few of the keyboard shortcuts that we use in Lightroom Classic, have done for years and have got really used to, are different. But the biggest issue of all is this. In Lightroom CC Cloud thing, in the local storage preferences, you have the option of changing how much of your available disk space Lightroom is allowed to use. Originals, though, are always backed up to the cloud. Obviously, the more images you have, the more storage you need, and the more that costs. But all this said, I do use Lightroom CC Cloud thing for one unique and specific reason: presets. Now, I love presets, not because they're a one-click fix to edit a photograph, but because they're a great way to give you a little bit of inspiration when you don't quite know which way you want to go with your editing. Many times I have hovered over presets in Lightroom Classic, liked the look of one, but then applied it and dived into the settings to make my own additional adjustments. And that too is what's great about presets, in that we get to see and adjust all of the settings that we used for a certain look. This makes it a great way to learn how to edit in Lightroom too, when you can dive into all of the Develop module tabs and see exactly what was done. Now in Lightroom CC Cloud, there are infinitely more presets. We have the Premium section, which are all of the presets you'll find in Lightroom Classic. Then there's the Yours section, which are ones you've made yourself and saved. These don't sync with Lightroom Classic though, which is a bit of a pain. So if you want them in there too, you have to either export them, or you could create a folder in Lightroom Classic, sync it with Lightroom. This folder and image then appear in Lightroom CC. You can then apply a preset to the image. This syncs back again with Lightroom Classic, and then you could save the settings for the preset by clicking on the plus icon and choosing Create Preset. Use the Check All and make sure the amount slider is also ticked so you can reduce the overall look or increase it way beyond the look of the original settings. Now, back in Lightroom CC, we also have the recommended presets, and these are unique to Lightroom CC Cloud and also mobile. We can view all or dive into the individual categories like subtle, strong, black and white, cool, cinematic, and so on. When we hover over a preset's thumbnail, we see the words more like this. And if we click on that, we are presented with even more presets that are similar but with subtle differences. And this continues every time you click or tap on more like this. There's also the three dots, the ellipsis in the top right. And when you click or tap on that, you can view the profile of who it was that made the preset, follow them, save the preset into the Yours section, or save it as a version, which is kind of like a history state. You can add as many versions as you like and then view them all when you click on the Versions tab at the bottom of the screen. Then just hover over to make your final decision and just tap to apply it. And if that wasn't enough, there's even more presets available. If we press P on the keyboard or tap on this icon in the top left, we can then access the Discover section. Here we see pictures edited by Lightroom users around the world that have made the edits they did on them available as presets. If you hover over the images, you can see the before and after. You can then click to save those settings as a preset. You can even click on Remix to make further edits to that picture, and then that too will be saved and available for everyone to use or remix even further themselves. Lastly, all of the presets in Lightroom CC Cloud are also in Lightroom Mobile, meaning that any you make or save in the Yours section will also appear in Lightroom Mobile, as they do here in my iPhone and my iPad with my dark and moody preset. If you want any presets from Lightroom Classic to be in Lightroom CC and ultimately Lightroom Mobile, then in Lightroom Classic, just right-click on your preset and export it. Then in Lightroom CC, go to the Preset section, click on the three dots and choose Import Presets. So just to clarify, if I want to look at using the presets in Lightroom CC when I'm editing an image in Lightroom Classic, I create a folder, add that image into it, sync it with Lightroom. That folder appears in Lightroom CC. I choose a preset, apply it, and that syncs back to Lightroom Classic. So although I don't use Lightroom CC Cloud for editing my images, I do find it extremely useful for presets. But it does seem a bit of a waste. Now, it would be really interesting to hear if you do use Lightroom CC Cloud thing or just Lightroom Classic, or do you use a combination of both? Either way, just if you get a moment, just leave us a comment in the comment section below. But for now, that's all I've got for you. So if you found this useful in any way, as always, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up, which is a like. And if you haven't yet, click on subscribe, because as you know, that's just a great free way that you can support this channel. But for now, that's me, I'm done. I'll see you in the next video.